Hi everyone, welcome back to Planet of the Capes. I'm Ardella, your guide to everything cosplay, and this week I've got an episode that's absolutely jam-packed. I'm going to be speaking with an amazing local cosplayer. I'll also be answering some of your questions and taking a look at a new material that's taking the cosplay world by storm. So I'm far too excited to keep talking to you about what's going to happen. Let's get on with it. So cosplayers are a really resourceful bunch of people, and they often find a huge array of uses for materials that were originally intended for something completely different. Pink insulation foam, for example, is often used to create amazing props, and EVA foam is favoured for its use in armour because it's lightweight and easily mouldable with a little bit of heat. There can be a few problems with EVA foam though. It's easily bent out of shape, so you have to be really careful when you're wearing something that's made of it, or warping and rippling can occur. That's where thermoplastics come in. Now, I've played a bit with thermoplastics in the past, but recently I heard of a new product to hit the cosplay scene. Warbler's Finest Art, or Warbler for short, is a thermoplastic in sheet form. You can heat it and mould it to practically any shape to create amazing props and armour. When the thermoplastic cools, it becomes solid plastic again. The only problem for me was that it was incredibly expensive to get a sheet of the stuff shipped to Australia. Luckily, the people at Adelaide-based cosplay shop Heaven's Forge saw there was a huge demand for this product here, and they started stocking it to make it easy for us Aussies to get our hands on it. They even have a super cool little mask making kit that I immediately wanted to help finish up my Ms. Marvel costume that I created for the premiere of The Avengers last year. Heaven's Forge sent me out a pack, and I'm really happy with the results. I'd love to show you how I went from the raw material to a fully finished mask in less than half an hour. So the first thing you'll want to do is trace your template onto a piece of EVA foam. The EVA foam acts much like Warbler in that it conforms to your face, so it's a good way to test whether or not the template will work for you. Cut it out and pop it on your face. When you're sure it fits right, trace the design onto the Warbler. Cut the design out from the Warbler and make sure it fits the way it should. Then carefully heat the Warbler using a heat gun or the oven. Wait till it's cooled a little bit and then pop it on your face. Press it into all the little contours. And it's done! I really love the way the mask conforms to my face. It's super lightweight and I don't have to worry about dropping it or anything because it bounces right back into shape. I can think of so many different uses for Warbler, guys, and I'd really recommend trying it out. Okay guys, so it's time once again for me to profile another amazing cosplayer. With me today I have Jill. She's a cosplay extraordinaire. Thanks for coming in, Jill.
Thanks for having me.
We'll start it off nice and easy. How long have you been cosplaying for?
Well, next year will actually mark my 10-year anniversary of cosplay.
Oh my goodness, a whole decade.
Yes, I started about 3 years out of high school.
So Jill, can you remember what drew you to cosplay in the first place?
Yeah, when I was in high school I was big into comic books, and then the anime scene sort of hit in the late 90s and I really got into that, and once I left high school and started going to conventions, that's when I noticed like a lot of people dressed up as the characters, and I thought, how do they do this? I want to do this as well. So I looked into it a bit more, and yeah, that's how I got into cosplay.
You've created some amazing costumes in that decade. Are there any particular favourites?
I think definitely last year's costume, my Stephanie Brown Batgirl. That's my favourite. I love wearing that over and over again.
I'm a bit of a Batman fan.
Yes, definitely a hardcore Batman fan.
Is there anything that draws you to particular characters like Stephanie Brown?
I definitely have to have an affinity for the character. Somebody that I really admire or look up to. Someone whose personality is just bursting from the pages of the comic books. That's Excellent. Who I love, and that's who I love to cosplay.
Excellent, excellent. So are there any future plans that you've got that you can share with us?
Yes, I've got a new Batgirl costume actually. I wore that for Free Comic Book Day this year, so I'm rerunning that at Sydney Supernova.
Yep.
And I'm going to New York later this year for Comic Con. Yeah, so I'm taking all my DC favourites.
I'm very jealous. Well, thanks so much for coming, Jill. It's been wonderful having you here.
Thanks so much.
Recently, David left a question for me over on the Kapow YouTube channel. David wanted to know if it would be a good idea to commission a costume from professionals if you're not confident of your sewing abilities but wanted to look awesome anyway. Thank you so much for sending in your question, David. This can be a bit of a tricky one to answer though, because it really depends on the sort of costume you're after and where you're thinking of getting it from. Personally, I find that a lot of the joy of cosplay comes from creating the costume yourself. There's really a sense of accomplishment that you get from knowing that all the time, effort, and stab fingers you put into creating a costume really paid off. There are some costumes that can be really difficult to make at home though. A full Iron Man suit, for example, or a Kevlar Batman suit. There are companies that will create movie-accurate replicas of these for you, but they don't come cheap. I'd really recommend going to a local place where you can get to in person to be sure of what you're buying before you spend your hard-earned cash. So that's all for this week. I've got another brand new project in the works for next week, guys, but in the meantime, why don't you head over to the Kapow Facebook page, send me a message, ask me any questions you might have. I'd also love to see any cosplay creations you guys have been coming up with, so send them on in too. See you next week!